All right, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to another live stream. A live stream I did not plan to do because I've been working on my history videos all day today and did not know there was an election. So we're going to delve into this election today. So we have a number of elections happening in Louisiana. But somebody brought up this Louisiana State House 60 election. This it says election primary, but it looks like there are only two candidates, so therefore it's a general election. Whoever wins becomes winner. Yep, it even says right here the primary winner will be elected. So we're going to go ahead and just look at that, keep an eye on these results, and see where we are. Now, I have not been to Louisiana in many years. So we're going to go ahead and delve into this district. I'm not sure if there are any other districts that are really catching our eye today. I'm not sure. We'll keep an eye on that. But as I mentioned in my previous videos, I've been working a lot more on my history videos. Tomorrow, I have the history video on my election history channel about the 1994 gubernatorial race in Texas between Ann Richards and George Bush. If you are my Patreon member on election history, or you're a member of my election history channel, that video is already out, so you can go ahead and see that. So, let's go ahead and delve into this district. I am not as familiar with it. I'm going to admit here, because I wasn't able to research it before we came on. I literally was watching some other videos, and then somebody said, well, there's going to be actually there's going to be an election, or there is an election. So I was like, okay, let me go ahead and live stream it. So here we are. All righty, hold on one second. Let me see. Hold on one second. I'm just gonna do a little bit of a change here, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, so I'm still trying to get everything together because, like I said, I just decided to do this at the last minute. So let's go ahead and look at the. They don't have any of the presidential. Here we go. Presidential 2024 results here, and apply. See what the partisan leaning is. You can see it's significantly more for Donald Trump. If we look at the statistics here in 60. All right, see 55.92% for Donald Trump to 44.66%. I think that's what they said right here, right? 56 of 43%. So we'll see what happens here. What county are they in? Assumption and I guess Iberville. Okay. I do not know Louisiana numbers. And I really can't give you much on this district, but suffice to say that if this is the kind of districts that Democrats can win, even in special elections, we're getting to that point again where it's just a constant win for Democrats. Democrats are just constantly winning these things. Okay, so we'll go ahead and keep an eye on this, see if we have any results. I am also on, let's see, they're doing it through the AP. We'll go ahead and keep this up. Let's go down to, was that 60 right here? No, District 97. Okay, this is interesting. Let's go to District 60. This is the one that we're going to be waiting on. All right, so let's go ahead and delve into the precincts that we have here. So as we can see, let's kind of put the map colors back on again so we can see. and off, we can see it's a pretty Republican district. We have some Democratic precincts here. Again, I don't know the district that well. I did not do much research on it. And then we got some Democratic parts down here. But otherwise, it's a pretty Republican district. Let me go ahead. Let's go into Google Maps. And I'm going to see if I can find where this is. It's the southern part of Baton Rouge. So I do know that. Now, obviously, Baton Rouge is very Democratic, but it is one of those places I know that once you start getting out of Baton Rouge, it can get very Republican very quick. So let's go ahead and look at what we have here, and let's say maybe some of the more Democratic areas. Okay, so is that Plaquemine? Okay, I assume. I'm sure there's some sort of southern Louisiana pronunciation that's wrong. Let's go ahead and take a look. So these are our more Democratic areas, and you can see kind of some more rundown homes. There you go, your typical Louisiana cemetery here. So you can see here kind of rundown homes, and so on. Want to get into some other places. I want to see if these are black neighborhoods or white neighborhoods. I don't know if we're going to be able to tell here or not. So you do have some kind of older rundown neighborhoods here. So if we get into the more Republican part of the district, let's go. Well, I'm trying to think of where the best place would be. Probably down and around here, right? Yeah, it looks like in this Bayou Corn. So I guess that's supposed to be corner, but Bayou Corn. We can go to White Castle. There we go. Yeah, this is pure Bayou country, right? Here we go. These are kind of more Republican areas. So let's get in and around here. Well, these are all kind of industrial areas. Let's come out here. So we can see we got some more affluent homes here, more, I guess, just typical middle-class homes right in here, sparsely populated. So we'll see how this thing pans out. So we're going to wait for the results, see what we have, but there's definitely, the fact that if the Democrats are able to win this thing, like, the momentum's happening. Now, before this live stream today, I was getting some stuff ready for the videos for next week. I want to talk about Vindman's run in Florida to see what's going to happen there. Vindman running, that's a good sign. That's a good thing. But personally, I don't think it's going to matter. I went ahead and looked at the voter registration statistics. They're kind of stabilizing, which is good for the Democrats, but they're not getting better for the Democrats. So they just went through a big voter purge in Florida. And one thing I want to say, just when we say voter purge, that does not necessarily mean they're illegally purging people off the rolls. No, you're seeing just as many Republicans being purged as Democrats, even sometimes more Republicans, depending on the county. So the purging is just of inactive voters and stuff like that. So we're not seeing much happening in Florida. It will be interesting, though, because we are starting to see more Republicans possibly vote Democratic. So voter registration might mean less when it comes to Florida. We'll see what happens. But yeah, we're just going to see how this election result turns out tonight. And again, if you're not on my Discord, which should be in the link below or in the description below, please go to that, because that's how I found out about today's race. I wasn't even paying attention to anything, and somebody said, are you going to cover the race? And I'm like, well, I'm just sitting here watching videos of Jay Swanson on YouTube, so why not? But this week I am planning on going over the elections in Hungary. So we have those elections coming up, really big implications there. Talk about what might be happening in Canada. Could we see a call for an election in Canada. It's possible. There was a Main Street research poll that came out of Canada that showed the Liberals with 51%. Now, other polls have come out since, in Ecos or an Abacus poll or something like, I don't remember which company it was, that showed it down to 44%. But Mark Carney's in a position where he has to ask himself, is now the time to maybe call an election and try to get that majority government? So that's something that we're going to talk about. And then I guess there's going to be some special elections. Maybe you can tell me in the chat. I really have not been following American politics the last week. I've been working on my history channel almost exclusively, getting the video out for today. So yeah, that is it. But if you go to the Discord and you ask me, hey, are you going to cover this election? I might cover it, because I just don't, I'll go ahead and cover it. I just don't even know that it exists. All right, so we are again in a holding pattern throughout the state. I don't know what time the polls close in Louisiana. I mean, most states usually have their polls, southern states usually have polls close at 7. But maybe Louisiana's a little different. Okay, so Louisiana closes their polls on Saturday. Okay, this is, no, it's 8 p.m. So we just had the polls close. So we'll go ahead and keep this up and see what happens. So the polls just closed 6 minutes ago, and I think we can already tell by all of the zeros that we have here, there's not going to be an early vote dump or a vote by mail dump, early in-person voting dump. So we're going to just have to wait, and it's just going to take as long as it takes. The Secretary of State already has results. Okay, here we go. Whoa, I don't know how many people are going to be voting in this, but yeah, we already have results. So the Democrat has 55.6% to, okay, so see, Chastity Verre Martinez, 55.6% to Brad Daig's 44.4%. So this is very similar to what we saw in Texas, right? So we saw basically the flip of what the result was of the presidential race. I think it was like 60-40 for Donald Trump in that state Senate District 9 in Texas. Now we're seeing an absolute flip here. Okay. Now let's see, ballots counted. I don't know how many they're expecting. This is 25% of the vote in. So chances are, well, with 7 minutes in, this is going to be an early vote dump. Let's see if we can see here. Iberville, if you are from, if you're from there, maybe you can let me know. It looks like both counties are about the same. Assumption County is 60-40, but the Democrat is winning in both. Let's go over to, yeah, see, this is what I'm saying. So they're not even, yeah, I hate Decision Desk just because it's connected to Tom Bonnier, but I hate it. All right, so we'll go ahead and see what's happening. Somebody mentioned the Louisiana Secretary of State site. That's what I'd rather go with. Let's see. I'm seeing that the parishes themselves have, yeah, and I said counties. I should be saying parishes, right? I'm seeing if they actually have election results on their, I don't see it. Okay, hold on 1 second. So I am just going, so these are our results that we have right now. Now, what I'm going to do, let's go ahead and look at the previous election results. So I'm just going to pull up the previous election results right here. And what we have, hold on. Oh, wait, is this a Democratic district, though? I mean, this might be a Democratic district that just goes for Donald Trump. And if that's the case, yeah, see, the seat became vacant after Chad Brown, the Democrat, resigned following his appointment as commissioner of Louisiana commissioner of the Louisiana Office of Alcohol and Tobacco Control. So this is a Democratic district, okay, and he was unopposed before. 2019 might have been some different districts, some different lines, different borders. So therefore, how much should we be looking into this as like, wow, this is amazing? Like I said, I'm just coming up to this right now. I'm not 100%. I don't know if this is impressive or not. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at some different results. So if we go over to, let's say, governor runoff 2019, and then let's look at the partisan lean here. Then all of a sudden you see District 60 when I assume 2019 John Bel Edwards would have been running in that election, right? You see that District 60 is very Democratic. So I don't know if this is as impressive of a win. People are going to maybe spin it a certain way. So you're going to have all your progressive and liberal people out there saying, oh, look, a Trump plus whatever district, when normally it votes Democratic. So this is something that we might not glean much out of this tonight. It might just replicate what we had before. But the only problem is we don't have any election results from the previous election. So therefore, we can't really glean anything. Again, people are saying Donald Trump won it. Doesn't matter. This is a state election, right? As you notice, whenever I talk about these elections, I talk about how it performed compared to the last election for this seat. Okay, this does not show any indication whatsoever of somebody maybe going from no longer voting for Donald Trump. Okay, so yeah, this might not be as impressive as we think, but I'm sure a lot of people will spin it that way. I'm sure a lot of people will say this is an impressive win. But now delving into it, not as much. Let's see some other, as a matter of fact, let's look at the statistics. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it was John Bel Edwards. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that John Bel Edwards was the candidate running. And he was. So if we look at District 60, the Democrat won, or John Bel Edwards in this case, because we're looking at the gubernatorial results, won 61.95% to the Republicans' 38.05. Okay. So, and that was in the runoff election. And John Bel Edwards won the runoff election 51-49, essentially. So this might not be as big of an issue as people say. It's good that the Democrats are winning, but we don't know what that means typically. I mean, if in 2019 the Democrats winning this thing with what did we say, 60% of the vote, 62% of the vote, 56% is not necessarily an impressive result. So we might not necessarily have a real impressive result. I guess we can go ahead and look at the do we even have it? Here it is. 2023 governor. Apply. Okay, and then we look at the 2023 gubernatorial election, and we can see that it shifts very much to the Republicans. And did I pick the runoff? Let me make sure that I picked. Okay. Yeah, see, it doesn't say here whether it's picking the runoff or not. We got an attorney, or was it? No, actually, there wasn't a runoff. I don't think there was a runoff. I think it actually was won in the first round, right? But the attorney general had a runoff. Let's go ahead and apply that when it's a pure partisan race. See, it's very Republican again. So we need to realize there are going to be districts like this. There are going to be districts that vote Democratic at the local level and then vote for Donald Trump. Okay, it does happen. And states like Louisiana, states like Kentucky, previously states like West Virginia, this did happen. In fact, Louisiana is probably one of the last vestiges of that type of voting behavior. So I don't think there's much we can glean into this. So let's go ahead. This is the last one. So this is 2023. So this is a 2023 state election. Let's look at the statistics here. District 60, 63 to 37. So, I mean, the thing we have to keep in mind is it's obviously swinging like a pendulum. Now, let's maybe come back a little bit, okay? John Bel Edwards was a unique candidate recently, a Democrat who did win in Louisiana. So here's the thing that if we're going to look at it, it might be a positive that it's because John Bel Edwards did quite well. The only thing that I'm worried about if I'm a Democrat is that a Democrat was in the seat before and he was unopposed in 2023. Okay, so if a Democrat's unopposed in 2023, that makes it look like, well, it's a pretty foregone conclusion. And as you can even see, it went a little bit more for Donald Trump or for Joe Biden. Still went for Donald Trump, but maybe a little bit more for Joe Biden. So let's go down to 60, see what it did in Trump versus Biden. 60, you can see Donald Trump 53.7 to 44.7. So a little bit closer. But yeah, I mean, this might be one of those ones that we really can't glean one thing. We can't really glean anything from this. Let's see. Do we have any more numbers being reported? Nope. So it's staying like this. So we have our first election dump. So we have our early vote and vote by mail election dump that's already happened. Now they're going to be counting the precincts. Chances are they won't be there won't be a lot of counting going on, but if you remember what we had in Texas, they just dragged their heels on that one. So yeah. Yeah, and this is one thing that we have to ask ourselves now. So we had the Tuscaloosa election a few weeks ago, and that was very underwhelming for the Democrats. And we have this election that I don't know if there's anything we can glean from it or not. Again, you're going to have the Kyle Kalinskis and all those people sitting there saying, oh, look at this win in a district that won. Someone was saying it's plus 12 for Trump. Well, yeah, that's the margin, but it would be a plus 6 district. Okay. It would be a plus 6 district. That being the case, it's a plus 6 when it comes to the presidential race. The problem that we have here is you have a state senator or a state house member who is a Democrat who holds it now and was unopposed. John Bel Edwards won it, but also Republicans win it. So it's really, really hard to determine if there's anything we can really glean out of this thing. Because it does seem like in the case of Louisiana that there are those swing voters. So, yeah. So Karen 12345, thoughts on the New Jersey 11th? I really haven't been watching it. I mean, honestly, I've been focusing on my election channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. I've been focused on my election channel. I don't really follow primaries at all, but I need to start doing that now. I need to start delving into the primaries. Yeah, I mean, I like Kyle Kalinske, but he'll sit there a lot. And it's not just him. I just use his name because he's the one I see the most. All of them. I guarantee you all of them are going to take this result and say there's something out of this. People who have zero experience in numbers, zero experience, will sit there and say this is great because it was a Trump plus, it's a R+6 or a Trump +12 district. No. If you're not looking at what John Bel Edwards had, if you're not looking at the Democratic incumbent was unopposed, you're not looking deep enough, and you're just spewing propaganda at that point. I hate to say it, but you are. But that's not to say I don't like him. I just do think that there's a lot of stuff that Kyle Kalinske says that's pretty verifiably false or not verified at all. Like, you know why ICE has 47 days of training? Because that's the number of the president. There's no proof whatsoever that that's actually the case. Okay, I did research on it and all that. I'm like, this seems kind of weird. There's nothing that that's really based off of except other hearsay, not actually based off of any reporting or empirical data at all, or empirical evidence at all. So, yeah, I don't know what to think of this election. It might be good. It might be bad. It might be nothing. It might be something. Really, I do not know. You might want to do a video on it. APAC tried to put their thumb on the scale. Yeah, I mean, I'll look into it because I am going to, like I said, right now my highest priority is my history channel. That's what I want to be working on and what I want to be building. This is something let me make a clarification here because I think some people are thinking this. I'm not abandoning this channel or anything like that. I said I'm going to be focusing more on my history channel, which means as soon as I got my time management and everything done with the history channel, that I feel that I have a good flow where I can get things out regularly and keep on top of that, because honestly, that's going to be the thing that occupies my time the most. Then I can come over to this channel and start doing more things. So that's what I'm looking at right now. And again, thank you for the super chat. Yeah, I'll look into that. I will look into that. Comrade Orwell, thank you for the super chat as well. Greatly appreciate it. Yeah, we'll probably have to wait for a few results to come in. So, who is the best candidate to run in any state with a primary? Have independent voters vote in the Democratic primaries, or open up the Democratic primaries, which in Michigan they are because they're not registered by political party. Whoever the voters pick is going to be the best person in the primaries, as long as you have the primaries open. That's my opinion. I think the Democrats, if they want to get the most electable people, they should open up the primaries. Unfortunately for the Democrats are the best at picking the worst candidates. You could have had John Glenn, but you went with Walter Mondale. You could have picked an American hero in an election where Ronald Reagan was just shitting red, white, and blue and having the flag wave all the time. You could have picked the American hero of American heroes at that time. You went with Walter Mondale. So the Democrats are bad at this. Every now and then they get lucky with Barack Obama. But they're usually bad at that. Yes, Texas is an open primary state, but the problem is that, well, I don't know if it's a problem. I'm just saying it's an open primary state. So therefore, those who identify as Republicans are probably going to vote in the Republican primary because you do have um, a competitive Republican primary there. On the other hand, if you look at the Democratic primary, you also have a competitive primary. So chances are, whatever people identify as, that's what they're going to vote in. It will be interesting to see the total number of votes because if we look back at the Tennessee 7th, we saw that Afton Baines' primary that she had, the numbers were really high in that primary and the Republican ones were really low. That kind of gave us an idea about what was going to happen. So we need to keep an eye out on that. I usually don't do nonpartisan elections. So somebody asked, am I going to do a live stream? Usually don't do nonpartisan elections because I don't know what to glean from those. Okay. Pretty much nonpartisan elections are going to be elections that people know what's going on the ground, but like that's it. So there's nothing. I just see the results and go, okay. Unless I know a little bit more about those districts, which in this case I do not. So, so yeah. So if like people are throwing up election after election, I don't follow every election. God, I'm coughing tonight. I don't follow every election. And so therefore I kind of need to be told what elections are going on. So if you go over to my Discord and join it, and like if you're mentioning these and you mention them on the Discord, then I'm going to kind of say, oh, okay, I didn't know something was going on. Like tonight's election. I've been working on a video all day for my history channel. Did not even know an election was going on tonight. Yes, so somebody said I am a human. Yes, I am a human. Thank you for the recognition. Yeah, so we might not. I don't. I Yeah. So we might just have to wait a little bit for some new results come in. Let me see if I can go to the Louisiana Secretary of State site. Yeah, cannot speak tonight. Um, Results. Election results. Okay, here we go. There we go. So are these even different from? Yeah, these are even different than what we have, right? Yeah, see, these have not updated. These have updated. So here we go. Oh, okay, and it shows parish results, voter stats, early voting, all. So yeah, we can see. Oh, now we're actually starting to get some of the actual results the from the polling locations coming in. So the Democrats now gone up more, 59% to 41%. So that's good. That's good. It's good that the Democrats win, but again, we have this local federal dynamic or really personality politics going on here. Don't know if this really means anything. So we need to keep that in mind. Now, if you look at the Louisiana House of Representatives, I believe it's like overwhelmingly Republican, like really bad. If I recall, and I could be totally wrong. 29 Republicans to, okay, wait, I wonder what it was before the election, because we have 5 vacancies that we're filling. So 71 Republicans, 29 Democrats. So, we'll see what happens with that. Oh, good. And it'll automatically refresh for us as well. So we'll keep an eye on this, see what happens. Let's see what voter stats are. Okay. So they do register by party in this district. So this, thank you, Secretary of State of Louisiana. Thank you very, very much. This is okay. If you work for a Secretary of State or an elections official, this is the kind of stuff we need. I can click on the results and I can see what the voter registration is in that district right now. I don't have to go dig through Excel files and all that. Thank you very much. So we can already see that this is a district that has 51.5% registered Democrats, 27.1% registered Republicans, and 21.4% registered other party, independents, whatever. Okay, if we look at the race breakup, we see that 42.2% of it is black. Okay, so what does this tell us from when Donald Trump ran? And it's unfortunate. What it tells us is black voters in Louisiana probably feel that it's a waste of time to vote in these elections because they know that they're going to lose. And that's sad. That's not how it should be. And of course, gender is going to be slightly female. Of course, that's what we expect. So we're looking at a district that people are registered mostly as Democrats. So we have 30,000 voters. So we are already at 10% turnout. Okay, and we only have 3 of 50 precincts reporting. So we'll see how this works. Souls of the polls, black voters vote on Sunday after going to church. Souls of the polls have not worked at all in the last few election cycles. Just go back. They have been, they're not effective anymore. They're the biggest studs out there. They have not been working. I would say since 2016, Souls of the Polls have not done anything at all. So we'll keep an eye out. So this is why I'm saying it might not necessarily be as impressive of a result as we might think, because there are so many registered Democrats here. And there are a lot of black voters as well, but they're not a majority. A majority are still white, 55.8%. So now, again, the last member of the House was a Democrat and unopposed. We just might be seeing a dynamic locally. Now, does that help maybe in congressional races and all that? Probably not. Louisiana is probably gerrymandered as hell. They had to redraw it and drew that extra congressional district. I don't know if this district goes into that newly created district or not. Well, it's not newly created anymore, but when they had to do it. But we'll see. But we'll take a look at the turnout and see how this works. But I don't think that this election result we're seeing is necessarily going to be anything we can glean anything from. I don't think it's necessarily too impressive or too unimpressive. I think we just have something here that we can watch an election and say, hey, this is happening, but we can't figure out anything from it. Okay, so Louisiana does have a plurality of registered voters still as Democrats. I thought that was the case. It's one of the few states that you have that. I don't know if Kentucky has it anymore. Kentucky had it for a long time, but I think it might have switched now. I don't know. Um, oh, okay, now it's getting a little bit more of a gap. So that's good. Got a few more precincts coming in. But what does this? But okay. So but let's pull this back. Okay, let's look at this in perspective. What does this possibly mean? Well, what it could mean is that the Democrats are doing better locally, right? If you get the right Democrat, then maybe you can win in some of these type of areas. Okay. I look at it this way. If, well, hold on a second. Okay. All right. I just wanted to do some checking. But okay. So what can we glean from this? Like I said, not much. But it does show that people who have D's next to their name, Democrat next to their name, in places that go 12% for Donald Trump, will still vote Democratic. Okay? It depends on who the Democrat is. If you're somebody like Andy Beshear, you look at this result as a fundraising result. You look at this result and say, hey, listen, in the 60th state house district in Louisiana, the Democrat won. Now, if you pick some Democrat like a Kamala Harris or a Gavin Newsom or someone like that, they're not going to win in a district like this. I can win in a district like that. And I do think, I guess Andy Beshear has just gone to New Hampshire. So I obviously he is starting to think about running for president, and he might even be running for vice president. I don't think and personally, I'm somebody who thinks the vice presidential choice does not really matter. Okay, especially geographically. Okay, last time a vice presidential choice mattered, I would say really mattered, was probably 1960. Since then, not really. I'll speak bad about Newsom. I think he sucks, and I don't want to be a nominee because if he is, we're going to get our ass kicked. Sorry, but we are. A lot of people in my neck of the woods, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, stuff like that, will not vote for him. Just telling you the truth. Okay, Kentucky does have a Republican registration advantage. I thought they did, but for the longest time, they did have Democrats ahead, even though Republicans basically dominated everything. I mean, I think the worst candidate you could have for the Democrats right now running for president is someone from California. I think that is the worst word, and from San Francisco, like the epitome of ultra liberal Democrats. You don't want that running in states. You don't want that running in states like here. I mean, be aware that Illinois is a Democratic state, but it's not necessarily as democratic as you think. We're not a 60-40 state. Okay, Newsom is based. You are entitled to your uninformed opinion. That's you. California is a mess. People do not want those policies. People do not want what that is. And I'm going to tell you, if you pick Gavin Newsom, you are going to have identity politics clobber the shit out of you, and you're going to lose. And that's the thing. That's one thing. Like, again, back to the show Newsroom. If you liberals were so goddamn smart, why do you lose so goddamn much? It's because of stuff like this. I hate to say it, but a lot of Republicans know how they understand humans. Democrats do not understand how humans work. They just don't. We got a new number coming in. Okay. I don't care. Policies don't matter. Well, yeah, but you don't need policies. Just say California liberal from San Francisco, he loses. Would you run Nancy Pelosi? So we're now up to 61%. So here we go, 61%. I'm thinking that if you are Andy Bashir, you kind of use this as a example of, hey, I can win in these types of districts. See, people in Louisiana who voted in a district that went 12% for Donald Trump will vote for somebody with a D next to their name. They will do that. So we are seeing some positive movements here. We have 18 to 50 precincts here. So we're getting the count going really well. So this is really good. But I still don't think that we can really glean anything from this because of the dynamics that we have in this district. Let me just look at some other ones. I was just looking at this one that has just two. Yeah, see, like here, like for example, here, you have this district that has no Democrat running, and the Republicans don't even have a plurality, not even close, 42.8%. Here, and this is again, remember, in this district here, the one that we're looking at, the Democrats do have a majority, not just a plurality, they do have a majority. So they should be winning this district. Now, of course, people are going to say that voter registration doesn't equate to voter choice, and that is true, depending on what state you're looking at. But pretty much voter registration is about the best indicator we have for vote choice. I like how they have up here, go vote. Awesome. That's a good point. So somebody mentioned here, does Andy Bashir win Kentucky just because of that last name? That is something you have to ask yourself, because it is a last name that is well known. Okay, you can say the same thing for people like Jim Matheson in the state of Utah when he ran for Congress. His father was Scott Matheson Sr., right? He won because of his name. A name doesn't necessarily always matter. Okay, ask Gwen Graham. She was, I would say that Bob Graham was probably the most, I would probably say Bob Graham was the most popular governor in Florida history. Close to Reuben Askew, but I would still say Bob Graham was ahead. Didn't help Gwen Graham at all. And I wish she would have won that primary. Had Gwen Graham won that primary, we probably would not have Ron DeSantis now. Man, I mean, that's just so bad. All right, so let's keep on waiting. We're at 18 out of 50 precincts. We'll see if we get any more. And then once we're done, we're going to go ahead and end it for the night. I have to work on my next history video, which is going to be the electoral history of the state of Alaska. I'm doing all 50 states. A few days ago, well, a week ago, I released Alabama. So I did a video about the electoral history of Alabama. It's a brief electoral history. It's not like totally in depth, though the video is 47 minutes long. So you can go ahead and check that out. So yeah, let's just wait to see if there's anything else here. Lawton Childs, I mean, I like Lawton. I mean, I got my picture with Lawton Childs here somewhere. I in my video about Florida, about that election, I did a video about the 1994 gubernatorial race in Florida. I showed my picture with him. I don't think Childs was as popular as Graham or as Reuben Askew. Okay, I just don't think. I think he was popular. I think people liked him, but I think that Graham and Askew had something special, and I don't think Lawton Childs did. Kind of like Leroy Collins. I don't think he did. Robert King High would have been probably the best governor that Florida had. Unfortunately, he lost to Claude Kirk, and then he, like, even if he had won and beaten Kirk in the election, he still would have only lived like a few months because he died like a few months later. Okay, we got some more. And see what's interesting. So we're now at 27. We're a little bit over half of the precincts. And as we can see, we can just see that that percentage is going up. 62. We started off at 56 and now we are at 62. So this is good. So we're almost at 20% turnout. So could we get a 40% turnout race? That would be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if that's the case. So yeah, so we'll see what happens here. But I guarantee you the narrative after this election is going to be Trump district plus 12. Don't fall for that. Do not, again, maybe I'll do a video about it. Do not fall for this. This is a district that has, again, as people have mentioned, and it's true, and Louisiana is one of the only states that still kind of does this, which is that people vote local for Democrats, and then people at the federal level vote for Republicans. Because I guarantee you, if we go back to this map, if we go to a U.S. Senate race, we'll go U.S. Senate runoff. See, that's 10 years ago. Let's see if I can do a senator race 2022. Okay. Guarantee you that not as red as I thought it would be, but let's look at the statistics. 2022 is a midterm election, so 58 to 39. So it's pretty much, you do seem to have a 20% swing when it comes. So this, okay, if we really want to talk about swing voters, right? And there's different kind of swing voters. So that you really have three kind of persuasions. The first persuasion you have is to persuade people to go from candidate A to candidate B, right? This is what we usually know as the swing voters. But you also have a persuasion to persuade people to come out to vote, trying to get non-voters to come out to vote. But then you have a third persuasion of trying to get active voters of the opposition to not turn out to vote. You know, this was probably what happened with Hillary in the emails, right? Try to get enough people to just stay home because they were kind of skeptical when it came to Hillary Clinton. Now, it does look like in this district, this 60th district, we have a good 20% chunk. Now we're at 29 out of 50 precincts, so we're getting through these. You have about a good 20% chunk that swing between Republicans at the federal and maybe some state elections to the Democrats in local elections and John Bel Edwards and stuff like this. So you do see 20% of the electorate here in these elections saying, we're going to switch back and forth. What Democrats need to do is need to figure out a way to bring those voters back over to this side. So somebody says both sides. What? If you don't support Stalin, you're all of a sudden a both sidesism person? I mean, come on, get real, people. All right, so we're almost there. We're almost finished. Oh, we got 33 of 50. Came down a little. It went 39 to 61, but looks like, so we're essentially now at we're at 20% turn, or Yeah, we're at 20% turnout. I don't think we're going to get up to 40, but we are at 20% turnout. Yeah, Louisiana has more registered Democrats and Republicans, but again, there is still this dynamic because it happened in North Florida until very recently. Not in the state house or the state senate, but in local county elections, you would see a lot of people vote in the Democratic primaries to vote in local elections, and then you would see them vote for the obscure candidate when it came to the gubernatorial election. So let me go ahead and give you like an example of this. Give you an example of this so you can know what I'm talking about. See if they show it. Okay. Now, you really can't see it here, but if you notice here, so Alex Sink ran against somebody named Brian Moore, who's been a Green Party candidate, a Socialist Party candidate, and all that. He's like a perennial candidate in Florida. I think he still might be running for stuff. I'm not sure. Here we go. Brian Moore. Is he still alive? Yeah, so he's still alive. He's just like a perennial candidate in Florida. Anyway, if you look at the map, they don't have the county by county results, but you can see that he does a lot better in not in Leon County, but in these other panhandle North Florida counties. Most of these people are voting in Democratic primaries for local office, and then they just vote against Alex Sink, who is the front runner, right? So that's what you see here. I don't know if we had that dynamic in I don't think we did against Charlie Crist. Might not, because I'm sure most of those people would have voted for Gwen Graham in the Democratic primary. Yeah, Graham won most of those, even though Andrew Gillum is from Tallahassee. Let's go back to the Louisiana results. Let's see what we got. 35 out of 50, 62 to 38. So now we are over 20% turnout. So that's good. Florida is going to be a really interesting state to watch because of the special elections and what we've seen so far. I will talk about that this week. I mean, a lot of people are going to unaffiliated, and over the next few. So, okay, how many of you know or have heard of this big switch? I didn't know it was a thing until about a year ago, like because I guess Republicans are saying the big switch is a myth. I didn't know that was the case because I have eyes and I can look at maps and I can see results. But I'm going to do a video about the big switch because it does seem like the Democrats are and the Republicans are having this battle. Both sides actually are kind of right when it comes to this. I've been looking over the last few days. I've been looking at ANES data, the American National Election Studies data, and it does seem like there is something really interesting with the big switch. Tell me if that's a video that you'd want to see, because I'm trying to determine if I'm going to put that on my channel of election history or my voting trend channel. It does seem like my voting trend channel, I am going to kind of move it in a different direction because I have come to the conclusion that like the people who watch my voting trend channel are two groups of people. One are either people who are just like huge election nerds and like to look at elections and like to look at results, which is how I am and stuff like that. Or that there are people who are Democrats that want to feel really good and they want me to tell them that everything the Democrats are doing is great. And then when I finally say, this doesn't look good, they get mad and take their jacks and go home. Right. So I think, that's something that I've been thinking about talking about. Okay. So the great switch story, from what I understand, is the argument is that the South went from being Democratic to Republican because the Republican Party had the Southern strategy. They tried to appease to angry white voters when it came to the Civil Rights Law of 64, the Voting Rights Act of 65, and all that, and got white voters over to their side because of that. Okay. Now, obviously, the George Wallace vote shows that maybe that's the case, but that's the argument. The Republicans are saying that's a lie. The Republicans are saying, and by the way, let's make this really clear, partisanship and ideology are not the same thing. Okay. And the Republicans / conservative want to conflate those. And we are coming to the point of conflation as well, because we are having a partisan sorting. But that being said, the big switch, the Republicans say that it's a lie, that the Democratic Party is the racist party because the people who founded the KKK back 150 years ago were Democrats. So therefore, Democrats in 2026 are the racist party. Okay. So that's the argument of what the big switch is. Okay. Overall, the data, the electoral data, the voting behavior data does not show it kind of disproves both. Okay. It really disproves both. And while race might have been kind of, I would say, in 64 and 68, maybe the gateway drug, it really wasn't that these people went to the Republican Party. Okay. So there is some truth to the big switch. There's also not some truth. The whole story is not told. And everybody who talks about the big switch does it within the confines of qualitative data. Southern strategy goes from Democrat to Republican, therefore that's the whole story. It's way more than that. You need to look at how the voters think. So I'm going to be talking about that. See, and this is another thing I want to say. I don't think it's the economy stupid. See, it is funny that people say it's the economy stupid, but here's the thing. If it were the economy, then Al Gore would have been president. If it were the economy, then Hillary Clinton would have been president. If it were the economy, then Kamala Harris would have been president. Let's be honest, if it were the economy, then Hubert Humphrey would have been president. If the Republicans have a bad economy, then Democrats win. Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, they all won because the Republicans had a bad economy. But when the Democrats have a good economy, for some reason, the Democrats can't win that election. So I do think that it's not always the economy. All right, we got one more precinct in. So let's see if we can get to 9,000 votes. Let's see if we can get to 30% turnout in this. Well, I mean, okay. It is culture wars nowadays because that's what the Democrats want it to be. And you got people like Zohran Mamdani and AOC and all them showing that you can go another way. But Bernie Sanders, if you watch Bernie Sanders speak, he doesn't talk about identity politics at all. Right now, I go to his Instagram or whatever he's on right now and look at how many posts he has about identity politics versus the amount of posts that he has about economics, about conditions, working conditions, healthcare, stuff like that. Right. So, yeah. All right. We're still at 36, got 14 more precincts to go. And we'll see what these 14 precincts, let's see, parish results. I wonder if one is all in. Okay, so both of these counties are performing at about the same rate. U.S. debt clock is almost at 39 trillion in debt, 8 million official unemployed, 500,000 homeless. Okay, let's put it this way. I am really thinking about 5 months or 5 I wish 5 months. 5 years from now buying an apartment in Paris. That's my goal. I was looking at the financing of getting an apartment in Paris compared to getting a house in the United States. For getting an apartment in Paris at, let's say, 300,000 to a house here in the United States at 300,000, the payment on the house somehow is substantially more than the payment on the apartment, even though they're the same price. Like, it's essentially significantly cheaper to live in France. And they have healthcare. They have other things. Why don't we have that here? All right, we're at 41 precincts. So do we have, okay, 41, and the percentage is going up. Okay, we might get to, well, it looks like we should get to 30% turnout. And this is a big thing to realize. It does show, I do think if there is one thing we can glean from this, it does show that people aren't necessarily automatically just party hacks. I think that we think that everyone's in the D and everyone's in the R. This right here is showing that that's not necessarily the case. So we have Brad Daig, the Republican, at 38%, with Chastity Verre Martinez at 62%. So it is an interesting result. Isn't Paris the most expensive city to live in? If you believe the American propaganda, yes. I mean, I literally, let's take, as we're waiting. Okay, so we got 44. We're still at, okay. Let's go to Seloge, which is the rental site. I know we're going off of, okay, let's see. No. I want to, let's go to Paris. Now, granted, remember, Paris is an old city. It's going to be a city that is, has a lot of old stuff to it. But let's go ahead and look at an apartment that, let's say, now remember, we're talking about Paris. So let's compare that to New York, right? Let's go look at an apartment that has, for 2,000 euros per month. You're going to get, in New York, you're going to pay $3,000-$4,000 a month. Here, you got a nice apartment in Paris, has everything, furnished and everything. Let's see where it's located, what arrondissement. So it's near Père Lachaise. It's near the Bataclan. This is a nice neighborhood. You're going to pay $2,040 or 2,040 euros a month. 2,150 per month compared to New York City. Now, here's another thing. I don't need a car. Okay, I can buy a pass that has all the public transports in Paris. Okay, we're talking about the metro, the bus, the tram, and even the RER going out to the airports, going out to Charles de Gaulle, Orly, going out to Versailles. I can get all of that for 900 euros per year. Okay, so yeah, it is like, and if you want to really downsize, you could go into something smaller. So here's 4,110, and it's smaller, but You actually, it's one of those ones where you actually have the bed that comes down. Um, because in Paris, it's such an old city, you do have a lack of size. 1,410. I mean, rent in Salt Lake City is that much. So I'm just saying and you spend a lot less money in Europe. I save significantly more money when I'm in Europe than I do when I'm in the United States. So I just wanted to point that out. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and well, we might end right now. I was on for an hour. I think we know what the result's going to be, unless something. Um, See, and it's like, no, let them eat cake jokes, but cake's good. It's like, you know what? You take that nowadays, and somebody says, "Let them eat cake," be like, okay, does it have chocolate frosting on it? Right? Um, yeah, I like the Napti, no party affiliate Napti right here. I like that thing. All right, so I think we're gonna go ahead and end it tonight. Um, but yeah, I think we know what's happened. I'm gonna be like I said, not too active right now. Try to do a live stream whenever I feel there's time to do a live stream. So I will do that. This was something I found out about at the last minute. I'll go ahead and do that. Do this next time. I will try. I will try to keep up with the schedule of the elections and do that. I'm gonna try to start pushing out 2 videos on the channel per week, but I am gonna be doing a lot more international videos. I've been talking about doing that for a while. I kind of want to do more international videos because I think people who are just stuck on the American politics can honestly annoy the shit out of me. I'm just going to say that. I want to talk about what's happening in Hungary. I want to talk about what's happening in other elections that are coming up as well, because the Hungarian election is going to be a huge election. And depending on what polls you look at, Orban. I keep on saying Obrador because I was talking about Mexico to someone yesterday. Orban could win or could lose. I mean, they have like the government sponsored polls and then the regular polls. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. As of right now, the only thing I'm going to talk about next week is Canada, Hungary, and maybe Vindman. And does Vindman being in the election in Florida actually matter? I have to see if there are special elections. But with that being said, because I'm going to be doing more international elections, I am going to start doing live streams of international elections, with the exception of, I was like, maybe with the exception of the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, because you can watch the broadcasts from those countries on those in English. But I do find that sometimes that the Canadian networks aren't that great when it comes to numbers and looking at the results. Australia is really good, but with Anthony Green now gone, I don't know how well they're going to do. What happened in New Jersey? Has anything new happened in New Jersey? I don't think so. I think I have that up here, and nothing. We haven't seen anything new yet. We still have votes remaining, so we'll keep an eye out on that and see if anything happens. But that might be a wake up in the morning, see what that is. Tomorrow's Sunday, might not get any news. Maybe that's going to be something for Monday. All right, with that being the case, I just wanted to do a quick live stream. I'm going to make sure, okay, we're at 48 out of 50 now. So it just did pop up 48 out of 50. And I think we're going to be a little under 30%. So we'll see. Overall, this Louisiana race, not much to glean. It's out of it. It is a local Democratic stronghold that goes 12% for Trump. Maybe it means something, maybe not. Really don't know. So CBC, CTV, or Global, all of them. I mean, like all of them. I don't think any of them are really good. Well, they're really good with political commentary and all that, But when it comes to looking at districts, looking at numbers, looking or I should say writings, excuse me, looking at writings, looking at numbers, looking at the electoral history, stuff like that, they're not that good. So yeah. Um, so Florida, I mean, states change. Okay. If people are like Florida's red, Florida's blue, again, let me talk about in 2012, Georgia was considered so red that the networks didn't even do polling data or exit polling out of Georgia. They said it was so red. Okay. In 2012. 8 years later, it is won by the Democrats and two Democratic, it's won by Biden and two Democratic U.S. senators. You can never say that nothing is going to happen. Elections are not a constant, they're in ebb and flow. So we're seeing some good data out of Florida. Florida's about the only southern state that we're really seeing some really good data out of, well, except for Georgia. The numbers coming out of Georgia are looking phenomenal. But if we look at Alabama, like the deep South, we're not really seeing much. Tennessee, border state, looking good as well. All right. Thank you all very much. I am going to head on out and I will see you whenever the next stream I do is. This was just, just a stream I decided to do.